Kia ora and welcome to Cinema in Context, where we discuss all things film and the connections between. My name is Jeremy Downing.
I'm William Chen.
And this month we are joined by a very special guest, Phoebe Shum. Welcome, Phoebe.
Hello, thanks for having me.
It's great to have you here. Now, Phoebe, she works for a film production company as the head of research for feature documentaries and is also an avid film lover.
Gotta have to be in our field, I think.
And we're actually breaking protocol this week. So usually we would discuss two films each month at Cinema in Context, one current and one retrospective with some connection. It could be the same director, same actor, a similar theme. But we're going to actually look back at the recent Oscars, the Academy Awards, and in the past we've looked at the nominations and kind of made predictions, but we thought it would be nice to have a bit more of a general discussion about the winners and about the films. And Phoebe was just telling us that in her office they actually they watch it. That's in the background of.
Yeah, it's the one thing we get to do each year is to use the TV for other than work-related stuff. So we turn it on in the conference room. Everyone kind of angles themselves. Or actually this year we moved all into the conference room to watch it. And it was my job to just mute the TV through the ads so that we could at least get a little bit of stuff done. But we watched it all from the red carpet right through to Best Picture at the end.
Oh, fantastic.
So good.
So you're going to be able to bring that. Did you watch it, William?
I did not. I saw clips. That was it.
Yeah, I think I went and watched the highlights as well. I love watching the Oscars, but I mean, it's at 2 p.m. on a Monday. Like, if it was a Sunday, I'd just black out the day. Actually, in the past, I've got like days off work to watch it.
Have you?
Yeah.
Sneaky.
It's like taking an annual leave day, like for the cause. So, yeah. Anyway, so it's wonderful to have you here, Phoebe. Sarah, she is currently jet-setting around the world with her husband. They are on a massive trip. So, we wish her well. She'll be back with us later on in the year. But wonderful to have you, Phoebe. We had Sinead last week, and we will have a new guest. Last month. We'll have a new guest next month. It's also worth mentioning that we generally talk about spoilers in our podcast. I think it's a little bit more awkward with this one because we're going to be talking about a number of different films. So we will attempt to be as spoiler-free as possible, or at the very least warn you when a spoiler's about to come. So our Oscar special 2019. William, do you want to kick us off? Get us into this discussion.
I thought about really delving into this. I think I suggested that maybe Oscars are pretty cool to talk about even after the Oscars.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And one of the main things is there's just been a lot of conversation around the selections made this year. I know historically the Oscars have been, very, very just this bastion of cinematic prowess, right? Like voted by quote unquote old white guys. What is Hollywood? What is the golden age, and where do we go from here? And I think last year was a really interesting Oscars. There were a lot of really bold choices and kind of this notion that a new wave of filmmakers, of people involved in the film industry, were really coming into their own. And so I thought this year was really interesting because you kind of have that mix between the two worlds. And that really shines through in some of the nominations and the eventual winners.
Last year was The Shape of Water took away the Best Picture, and it was the year before that where Moonlight took it, but it was that horrible mess.
Yeah, I actually turned off the Oscars after La La Land got announced, going like, oh, well, that's it. And I was really disappointed.
Yeah.
And I found out when I got home going, oh my gosh, I should have just left the TV running.
What a shame, though, to take away the glory of Moonlight winning. Like, I feel really sad for Moonlight.
Such a beautiful film.
Yeah.
Absolutely stunning. So I'm really glad that won over La La Land. I felt La La Land was just too
saccharine.
Yeah, and Oscar sort of orientated, like they were just painting it for the Oscars. I was just, it's just another musical.
I couldn't stand The Shape of Water, but The Shape of Water for me was. I mean, we talked about this in our podcast. How it was. I mean, I love Guillermo del Toro. He's a beautiful director. But the actual story was, I don't know. Average. Oh, yeah. I mean, I agree with you. It's been an interesting year. I mean, the lead up to this Oscars was very muddy.
Oh, ripe with controversy with the potential to put some of the items in the ad break so you wouldn't see them.
Yeah, the popular Oscar vote, the popular Oscar category.
Not having the host. Actually, I think it did really well with no host. It kind of put more prestige and more relevance to the presenters, and they kind of had a bit more of a role. You're not going, oh, it's just another person talking after someone who's just talked. You're kind of like, oh, who's presenting? What are they bringing to the stage? Like Awkwafina and John Mulaney were hilarious.
They were amazing.
So good.
I'm always a fan of Tina Fey, Amy Poehler, and Maya Rudolph. To have them open the ceremony,
Yeah.
and they kind of had that shtick where they said, we're going to talk a little bit longer, so it's like we're a host, but we're not the host. Yeah. Oh, nice. Interesting.
Yeah, it definitely ran a lot smoother. And it definitely ran a lot shorter. So I think it kind of kept you a bit more engaged. And that they didn't end up going with the whole putting items in the ad breaks, which would have been such a shame. Like cinematography, editing, like you really can't make a film without those.
Yeah.
And to have that hidden.
And I think the whole prestige of, if we're talking about the prestige of the ceremony, it just, they're shooting themselves in the foot, because the Oscars, and I read a really good article about it, it's like, just be long. Like, this ceremony is about really honouring the art. And you know, and sure, there's a massive marketing element to it, and we know that it's like, you know, the nominees generally have paid huge amounts of, or their studios have paid huge amounts of money to get their nominations. But you know, it's not the Golden Globes. It's heralded as the highest honour in filmmaking.
Yeah.
Do we think it still is?
At this stage, I think it probably is, just because it has that prestige, and there isn't really an award that sort of compares with it at this stage. I think in the future that it might not end up staying in that position. Maybe something else will get that prestige, unless the Oscars can kind of keep up with the modernity of the audience and what values are held globally, rather than just American-centric or traditional.
Okay, well, I'm keen on that note. Then I'm keen to jump into Best Picture discussion, because
Awesome.
You know, I haven't seen all of these films. I haven't even seen the winner, Green Book. But from my reading of it, in terms of a film that talks about race relations in the States, it felt like the most pedestrian choice.
Yeah, I know people weren't super thrilled, like that there could have been something else that was chosen. I did watch it last night. And yeah, I have a lot of mixed feelings. Mahershala did such a good job, so he is so deserving of the actor in a supporting role. I kind of wish maybe it was more of his story in the thing, and maybe he could have been bumped up to Best Actor, because his performance was stunning and so moving, and you just ached for him the whole time when he just had this perspective on what African-American life is like in the 1960s. Whereas, don't get me wrong, I love Viggo, great actor. I really disliked his character. Really did.
But he was so charmingly Italian. Sorry, Italian.
Yeah, he can't. I really struggled to get into it. I really wanted to turn it off and just go to sleep. It wasn't until Mahershala got more into the story that I'm just like, yes, okay, there's more bounce back between each other, and Viggo's not just like the horrible or the nice family man who is racist and ignorant and naive in what his views of America kind of thing. Like, he starts the film throwing away those two glasses that the black workman used. Sorry, spoiler.
Start of the film.
Start of the film. It's like in the first 5 minutes, which is such an aggressive racist act to be like, I'm going to throw out something that a black African American has touched. And then as it progresses, it kind of doesn't stay at that level of racism. It goes like, oh, we're just going to show him really racist at the start, and then we're immediately going to mellow that out for like character development, I guess. So
it seems to me like when I look at the list of films that were nominated, it reminds me of the year that Crash won over Brokeback Mountain, which to me was clearly the best film of that year. And Crash was this kind of like, oh, we understand diversity, we understand, you know, we're with it, we're hip. And I feel like, based on my understanding of Green Book, it feels like that, because you've got, you know, we've got little lists of the films printed out here, and I'm actually trying to find where best film is. Where is
At the bottom.
At the bottom. There we go. Even Black Panther, like its discussion of race, I think is more challenging than what you've just described, Phoebe. You've got BlacKkKlansman. You've got, it's Roma even is more, its discussion of race is quite nuanced. I mean, I think Roma should have won. And I know why Roma didn't win. It's because of the Netflix thing, right?
Yeah,
absolutely.
definitely. The first time Netflix has ever been part of the Oscars, and they picked it up so late in production and just threw money at it, which is why it even happened.
I don't know about this. What is?
Yeah, so I think it was being made for quite a while, and because Cuarón was making it on 65mm film, because artiste, the production who originally had him, the studio, dropped him because I think it was getting too long and too expensive.
Oh, wow.
But it then got picked up by Netflix, who were just like, this sounds amazing. And I think they picked it up, it was quite late, so it would have been in production or maybe even close to post-production. They picked it up and just threw millions of dollars at it, and then they threw millions of dollars in the marketing. I think it was something crazy like $21 million in the marketing.
No, it'd be more than that, because they usually put in for publicity, they would put in the budget of the film. Is generally what happens with big movies. And then I think it was just for the Oscar, there's just the Oscar campaign was some huge amount. Like I'm thinking like hundreds of millions.
Was it hundreds of millions?
It's like 150 million or something.
Really
like that.
bad with numbers.
But that's the Netflix model. They just throw money, and so I think they're in major debt, but it's because they see the long game and they're like they've dominated the market.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like they know exactly what people are interested in watching. They've really picked up, and it's an interesting discussion of like what is real cinema, because I think that's why Netflix isn't really, well, it definitely wasn't part of the Golden Globes, and why it's only now part of the Oscars, is that people think Netflix, because it's streaming based, is not real cinema because it's not in the cinemas, which for the Oscars you have to have streamed or have played in the cinemas to qualify. So yeah, but I mean, but that's where we're going at the moment, because we have such busy schedules. Like we can go into a whole economics debate discussion about that, but we have to spend our time wisely, and Netflix streaming is the best way to do it, because if you go to the cinemas, that's like a 3-hour commitment to see a 2-hour movie, because you have to get there and buy the tickets and then travel back and find parking and whatever.
So, I mean, what do you think about Steven Spielberg's stance? It feels really hypocritical.
Yeah.
He came through on this new wave of breaking and bucking the system. And he's like, it's not film.
Well, I will say this. I felt with Roma, my feelings towards the Netflix model was a little different, because I really want to see this movie on the biggest screen possible. And I just could not. And a large part of that was because of Netflix insane proposals about what kind of movie theater could play this movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it had to have a very specific sound setup, screen size, all this stuff. And it screamed like, yes, we have a monopoly, deal with it, bro. And for a film like Roma, which is beautiful and deserves to be seen in black and white on the most pristine screen possible, watching it on your little laptop or even your large widescreen TV, it's taking something away from that. And I did not, I don't appreciate that very much.
I mean, put on film, some of the greatest cinema experiences I've had have been with his films. Harry Potter 3, Gravity, and Children of Men are all films that are still in the cinema. Gravity, I've seen it 7 times in the cinema, and I haven't seen it since, because that experience, the 3D and also the 3D sound, the Dolby Atmos sound, and the soundtrack was in 3D.
I think I had that experience with Dunkirk. I went to the IMAX.
Oh yeah, that was amazing.
Yeah, stunning on the IMAX. I guess nowadays we just have to be very particular about what we see at the cinema. So I go to the cinema, but I go to the ones that I absolutely think are cinema worthy. Well, when I ask people what did you think? And they're like, oh, wait for it to come out. And you're like, on DVD. I'm just like, oh, okay, so worth watching, but maybe not worth watching now, kind of thing.
And I will say though, like, because we were talking earlier about how I'm doing a third rewatch of Game of Thrones. My flatmate has never seen it, so loving watching it with her. But that series, like, I was rewatching last year, watching season 7, and the photography of that show is incredible. I mean, that is cinema quality photography.
Oh yeah,
just the vistas and the depth of everything. And but that's made for TV, so I guess it's just.
That's true. But then it would be so much cooler if it was on the big screen,
cool.
right?
Yeah. I do imagine in the future there'll be like festivals or screening events where we're going to do a marathon of Game of Thrones at the cinema. It's like...
Because I remember going to see the finale of Breaking Bad like at our local art house cinema. And like Breaking Bad is also a beautiful show. Like the cinematography is insane. And going to see it on the big screen, I remember my friend and I just gasping at some of it because it was a completely, like, almost overwhelming visceral experience. And just something about being in a darkened room where you're kind of out of your comfort zone, you're not sitting at home, just adds that little something, I think.
And I think with a film like Roma, it is really challenging for that film to be paused because it's so slow. It's like you need the propulsion of the cinema to be able to kind of push
you to
stay, and it builds that momentum. And if somebody pauses, you think about some of those scenes, and I don't want to spoil it, but you think about where some of that film goes. You don't want to be pausing some of those scenes. It would really kill the mood.
I think I've shared the story on the podcast before, but I've had multiple instances on plane rides where, you peek over the shoulders of people and they're watching movies like Gravity and Dunkirk. And I'm just imagining like Chris Nolan or Alfonso Cuarón like seeing that and just pulling their hair out in frustration.
I thought you were going to say when the flight attendant makes an announcement and pauses your movie, you're like, no! That was a really emotional part. I've had that happen to me and I'm just like bawling my eyes out and like the whole movie pauses while the flight attendant comments about turbulence.
Yeah. I mean, I guess he gets, Cuarón got the honour with the best directing Oscar. And I think he deserved it. There's some, it was beautifully put together.
Oh, absolutely. Could I go back to talk about Green Book a little bit?
Yeah.
Awesome. So I actually don't mind Green Book winning for a couple of reasons. The first reason, it meant that Bohemian Rhapsody didn't win.
Yeah.
And that was, can you guys believe that was the front runner throughout the entire night? Like every single editing went to Bohemian Rhapsody, both sound awards.
Oh, I can understand the sound, to be honest, especially the sound mixing, because they blended Rami and Freddie Mercury's voices in the singing. So to be able to blend those together to create a pretty unique sound, or accurate as much as you could, sound is just incredible. So I think it definitely deserved the mixing award just because of that technical component. Yeah.
But a lot has been said about the editing, right?
Yeah, the editing is, there's videos online that have mocked the editing by editing the Oscars in the style of the editing. Yeah, it's pretty funny. And I don't know, like, I am a huge Queen fan. They're my favorite band. They're like, it's the soundtrack of my childhood, basically. I know all the songs by heart. Like, I sing it at karaoke. I love Queen. And for this to be the Queen movie, it's so it's so shallow. Like, it's very much in the vein of what's it called, that John C. Reilly movie, Walk Hard.
Yeah, I've heard about that.
I mean, Walk Hard is a hilarious parody, and Bohemian Rhapsody fits the beats like beat to beat. Freddie starts, the movie, and he's about to perform the biggest concert of his career, and before he does so, he kind of pauses and reflects on his whole life till then. It's pretty ridiculous. I guess I enjoyed it somewhat, but it's not a great movie. I don't think so.
I haven't seen it for the exact reasons you pose. I just find a lot of those biopics they're very boring. Like,
it's so rote.
It doesn't matter how interesting that person's life is. It's just, it's like Tarantino says, no one's life is that interesting. But I just think that if you're going to tell a film about their music, I mean, it's the music we want to hear, and it's I'm interested. I think the Rocket Man film, the Elton John one, is actually a musical, right?
Yes,
which I find that much more interesting,
and it looks more interesting. At least the trailer.
And
does.
Elton John has fully endorsed the
Yeah.
actor who's playing it. He's the only one who could.
They've just done a duet together.
Oh, have they?
Yeah, they've just
Brilliant.
done, I forget what song it is, Tiny Dancer. They sang Tiny Dancer together at some benefit. Yeah.
I will say one thing that is on point with Bohemian Rhapsody is the casting. Like, Rami Malek, incredible. The people who play Brian May, Roger Taylor, and John Deacon, if you look at old photos of Queen, they are doppelgangers, man. Like, I don't know how they cast them, and they're not bad actors either. Like, it's not just, not just the looks. But I think everything is real surface level. The story is so trite. The very, very brief spoilers. The end of the movie, he has his entire life sorted out in one day. So he makes up with his family. He finds and professes his love to the love of his life. He makes up with his band members, and he performs the biggest rock set of his life at Live Aid, and that's like before 11 a.m. Like, it's pretty ridiculous, like bordering on parody. But yeah, Bo-Rap, not super great.
Bo-Rap.
But yeah, which makes Green Book, I think, a more worthy winner, strangely. I will say I enjoyed it quite a bit. I think if you take the movie for what it is, and maybe it wasn't intended to be, but I thought it was just a cartoon. I thought Viggo and Marshala were both complete caricatures, and that Viggo was the bada bing, I'm Tony Lip, Italian, and whereas Marshala, he's basically Data from Star Trek: The Next Generation.
I would disagree with you on that.
What are emotions? Why, I am a proper man. Please do not touch me. Kind of, I don't know. Maybe that's just me bringing a lot of Star Trek into this. But I was laughing every time he was like, "Oh, what is this? I am prim and proper." And so I enjoyed the performance. I thought it was really, really cartoony, and I thought the racial politics, it wasn't that bad. A lot of it was about being nice, which I know is real, like milquetoast. But like. Maybe, after recent events, because I did see this movie recently, I just felt really good about people being nice to each other. and the overall message of the movie is, maybe people shouldn't be jerks. And again, it's real, almost bordering on childish, but it's pretty slick. The editing is nice. The storytelling, it flows quite well. It doesn't really get bogged down. And I can understand why it won Best Picture. Like, it's not a challenging film, but it's one that, at least for me, like, it made me feel pretty good, like, finishing it. So that's what I say about Green Book.
Well, let's talk about animated feature film, because I think there's some really interesting films in there. I mean, I loved Isle of Dogs. Isle of Dogs was one of my favourite movies of the year. But far out, that Spider-Man movie, it deserved to win.
Spider-Man was out of the park. Stunning.
I mean, you've got some really good animated feature films in there. I mean, Incredibles 2, I've talked in the past about how I feel that it could have been a perfect film if they'd sorted out their villain a bit better. But my gosh, Isle of Dogs. I haven't seen Ralph Breaks the Internet, but I'm sure it's great.
Ralph Breaks the Internet is very enjoyable, but it is definitely a solid Pixar movie. Yeah. Same with Incredibles 2. It's a very solid, you know what you're going to get because of the quality of the previous films. It's nothing new. It's just highly enjoyable. Yeah.
I actually rewatched Inside Out last week.
Oh, nice.
My gosh, that's a wonderful film. Sorry, a bit of a side tangent, but just the thing about Pixar movies, that makes me cry 2 times every single time in that movie. Like Bing Bong, when Bing Bong sacrifices himself, and the complicated memory at the end. Memory at the end. Just, breaks my heart.
Yeah, I thought Ralph Breaks the Internet was good. I loved Wreck-It Ralph, so I think this one is not as good. It just has that sequelitis kind of thing, like, what will we do with the characters?
I think it dealt with sequelitis quite well, actually. I think it, bringing in the element of the internet and exploring further their relationship now that they're, got a solid relationship, spoilers, and then, that relationship falling apart because Ralph is way too clingy. And then, like, what happens when new things come along and your friends make new friends and I just really love the Disney princesses making cameos.
That's so good.
But I think it did quite well with knowing how bad sequels can be. It was pretty solid in being able to just expand the world and expand the relationships, and it didn't tread too much on what was already done.
Cool. And was Bao was that the animated short before Incredibles 2?
Yes.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, that was wonderful.
That
my
was
God.
so good.
And it was so cool to see the 2 female directors get up there.
Yeah,
They're going to be future Pixar feature film directors.
I am so happy about that, that there's more women coming up through the animating ranks,
And through Pixar, which is like famously a boys' club.
Yeah, and well, now with John Lasseter. John Lasseter being evicted, and you know, it's a nice change in culture.
Yeah, Bao was also horrifying. I would just put it out there.
I was so impressed at its ambiguity.
I went to see it with 2 of my high school friends, both guys, and you know, we love Pixar shorts. Let's watch this. And when the thing happens, like the 3 of us went, like genuinely horrified and shocked.
Were they Pākehā or were they also Asian?
They were both Pākehā, yes.
Yeah, I feel like when I've talked to my friends about this, is that Pākehā or people who don't have a huge sense of family and community as perhaps Asian or Māori communities have, they don't understand it. They're just like, this is the most disturbing thing I've ever seen. And it's just like, no, it's a metaphor because she's suppressing him and, you know, like she's completely engulfing him. And, you know, like it makes so much sense when you grow up with a Chinese or Asian family where you're just like, the expectations.
That being said, one of my friends at the end did not get the film. And he kept thinking that the mother was a guy and that he was like, she was like
really?
the Bao's brother. And he just didn't get the metaphor.
Because once you
I thought that was a guy. Like,
because once you understand the metaphor, it's so beautiful and so I really appreciated it when I watched it, but I know that my friends who went and saw it was just like, oh my God, and then she ate him, and I don't understand. So it's like,
it's such a wonderful, it's such a wacky, it's such a brilliant
premise,
wacky way to show that.
I'm just so happy that one won.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen any of the other ones, I don't think.
No, we don't really get that opportunity in New Zealand to watch those.
I know sometimes the Academy has them like all at once, which is quite nice, but yeah. Again, another vote for Spider-Man. You guys know I love Into the Spider-Verse with all my heart.
Yeah.
And I think, I hope it is signs of like big change in the animation industry because it's so different.
It is.
And they spent so much effort making it different. Like it was brave, it was bold, it presented itself in a way that, you know, broke the mold of the last 20 years, and doing so in a way that honored the comics, it's brilliant. Like just visually, kinematically, what a movie! Just incredible stuff.
I need to watch it again because we went and saw it. Sarah, William, and I went and saw it. We went and saw like a preview screening of it, and Sarah's husband Doug, and we. You know, I remember Sarah, she was not that looking forward to it and wasn't hugely enamoured by it. She's sort of sick of the whole superhero comic book thing. But just visually, we were all fizzing, like just the beautiful colours and the kind of shaky quality of the visuals.
The dropped frames.
Yeah, and I just love that they brought in like the pow, smack kind of thing that just really brought to life the comic book ones. Because I've seen animated films where they've tried to be comic booky, but they've basically just animated panels from a comic rather than making it film-like.
Yeah.
And so this one, you were like, you knew you were watching a film, but you knew of its comic background, and it was so meta. Knowing that itself was like a comic, it was like,
which is is a Phil Lord and Chris Miller. Those guys, they are so meta.
Amazing.
Have you guys seen Lego Movie 2?
I have.
What's it like?
Can we do it next episode? Because I loved it. I thought it was such a good antidote to our times. I think I told you.
Nice. Okay, I haven't seen it yet. My people can talk to you about it. Well, let's talk about Best Actress because that was, I think, in some ways quite a surprise because you sort of had three actors that were vying for it. I think initially it was very much a Glenn Close. Well, actually, no, it was sort of Olivia Coleman and Lady Gaga early on were like the two front runners, and then it became a race between Glenn Close and Lady Gaga, and then it kind of was looking like Glenn Close was going to take it.
Yeah, because everyone was saying it was like her time kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which I have mixed feelings about people saying that. I really think it should be based on their value of the work of the film that they're being judged on, or like that's part of the classification sort of thing. So a lot of people thought Glenn Close was going to get it, but Olivia Coleman, she's so good in that role.
Yeah, that film is the three of them. Like, I mean, I put Emma Stone in there as well because I think her character didn't require her to do any of the kind of flash bang of the other two. I mean, what's her name? Rachel Weisz. Oh my word! I love her anyway, but every time she was on that screen, it was just powerhouse moment.
Oh, for sure.
And then Olivia Coleman, like, just, and it's so cool to see how far she's come.
Since Peep Show, like
and then I guess then after that was Hot Fuzz.
Oh, that's right.
She's the PC Doris.
Yeah.
and she just, it was so lovely, her speech as well. And it was a bit of a surprise.
And I love that she won for like a really comedic role as well, because it's really tragicomic, and she doesn't really ham it up. Like, it's a really delicate performance in a lot of places.
I love it when I can forget the character, like the actor or actress who's playing the character. If I just completely forget them and just all I'm seeing is this character, is the best for me, which is why I sometimes don't really appreciate Emma Stone. I know she's a brilliant actress, but every time I'm like, oh, it's Emma Stone. But Olivia Coleman just as Queen Anne, and all you can see is Queen Anne, and all I wanted to do was my documentary research side coming out, going like, I need to research Queen Anne. Was she really like this? I was like, what is the background? What is she based it on? So I was like,
I'm sure a lot of embellishment. I love that scene where
definitely.
Where she's like eating cake and then she's vomiting and putting it out.
One more piece.
Puts more cake in. Oh, it's so
the
good.
royal privilege of throwing up cake and eating more.
I love the scene where they're at the party and the camera is just locked on her face, and you see these minute changes, and it's devastating.
Yeah. There's a nice that, and I'm going to try a name and probably going to ruin it, but yeah, let's Aparicio. That's cool. I'm sorry if I've butchered that name, but it was really lovely to see her because she does some beautiful work in that film, and she carries that movie in such a subtle way. And really nice to see Melissa McCarthy getting that nomination too.
Yes.
I wish she'd have won. Have you guys seen that movie?
No, but I want to.
No, but I haven't. I've just seen the shorts, and just to see her doing something other than comedy and doing it so well, it's just like, that's like, I'm probably going to watch that one next, to be honest.
You know, Julianne Moore was in that role, and she got fired.
Oh, really?
It's the first time she's ever been fired from a film.
Wait, what?
Why?
Yeah, because she just wasn't what the director was wanting. So I was watching an interview with her with Andy Cohen, and she was saying, it's the first time. The last time I was fired was at like a ice cream stand when I was 15. And she goes, I haven't been able to watch it. She's like, I love Melissa McCarthy. I'm sure she's done a great job, but I just can't bring myself, which is fair enough.
Yeah.
But I love Julianne Moore. But yeah. And then, of course, I mean, you guys know I'm a massive Gaga fan. And I mean, it makes sense to me that, the people that were fans of hers, they could vote for her in the best song category, And as much as great as she was in that film, she's no Olivia Coleman in terms of the work that she was doing. But I mean, there was no denying that Shallow was going to take that.
Oh no!
Especially with that performance.
Yeah. But that was.
I cringed at that performance.
Get out! No.
The live one. But yeah, I mean, it's the amount that people have raved over that song, and I have gotten sick of it on the radio.
It's played all the time.
But
if you have ever been to the warehouse, like any warehouse around the country, they will be playing that song.
Yeah, have you seen that Bad Lip Reading have just released their version of it, of the Oscar performance of Shallow?
Oh,
it's
really?
called Chocolate Mousse or something, or Chocolate Candy, or I don't know. And this is very good. You should watch it. I was a big fan of Mary Poppins. I loved that film. That'll be pretty much will be in my top films of the year at the end of the year. So I think that would have been the only thing to kind of take a potential. Because even the Ballad of Buster Scruggs was okay, but yeah. What are you guys' thoughts? Anything in there worth mentioning
for original song? Yeah. I mean, Shallow had to be the one, right?
Yeah, I really enjoyed all the stars, but in terms of, I think, having an original song that contributes to the film in a great way is so important to be able to say it's the original song. It's got to really be part of it.
Yeah. I also thought Mary Poppins should have had another song be nominated.
I think Mary Poppins should have been represented more in this Oscars, I think.
I don't know. The place where Lost Things go, to me, was the one where they tried to make it sound really Julie Andrews.
Oh, really?
Emily Blunt, I think, does a pretty good job, like, singing her own thing. And I think Imagine That, the song's called Imagine That, right? Or Can You Imagine That? I thought that would have been a much, better, stronger choice. But
I love my favourite one is, oh, our cover is not a book, open it up and take a look. That's my favourite one.
Still haven't seen it, but Emily Blunt, she's so amazing. It's such a shame that there were so many really strong contestants for actress in a leading role.
Yeah.
I think she really just missed it.
Yep, I agree.
Again,
I agree with that.
so many times she's just missed a nomination.
I think that, you're absolutely right. I mean, let's look at score. So, for all of its moments that were just like a general Marvel score, that Black Panther, the introduction of the tribal drums was just so exciting. That when I heard that in the cinema, I was just like, oh, this is cool. And then it comes into Infinity War as well. I was like, ooh, Wakanda forever.
Black Panther is my favourite Marvel film out of the whole franchise.
Nice.
Because I was just like, so many tropes got completely ignored and smashed, especially like the what I particularly like, spoilers, though it's been out for a while, so you should really see it, is when he fights for the kingship against the mountain tribe leader. Can't remember his character's name.
M'Baku, I think.
Yes, M'Baku. And when he has him at the point of like, give up, I've got you, and M'Baku does give up. Because so often when you see films and the antagonist just goes like, I'd rather die.
Yeah.
Like, why? just moments like that where it's, the good guy, the hero, doesn't kill someone out of spite. Or, it's so refreshing, which is such a surprise when you think of like hero movies.
And it's pretty cool it got nominated for Best Picture.
Yeah, it is cool.
It's a great statement.
That's the first time that a superhero film, I think, has been nominated for Best Picture.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Which is such a huge step, especially for the quality of... they're popular, but they have a huge amount of cinematic quality to them now.
Yeah. I mean, I still preferred, like, in terms of that year, I loved Infinity War. I thought that film was incredible. And Black Panther, though, the Wakanda, the characters, the three female characters, and I just thought it was great. I have issues with the ending of Black Panther, but I've talked about it in a previous podcast.
Yeah. I mean,
it's
a Marvel movie.
Yeah, it's very Marvel-y.
They could bring him back. It happens all the times in the comics. But, I think he had a very strong end.
Well, Michael B. Jordan's character is my favourite thing.
Oh, he's stunning as an antagonist. As a villain, he is superb.
I just think that I actually think the three women and the antagonist was stronger than the Black Panther himself.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And I'm just like, oh no, why can't Michael B. Jordan be Black Panther?
Because he was great as an antagonist because he had the opposite view of the hero, which is what you want in an antagonist. But he had the same view as
Thanos?
Nope.
The Lupita Nyong'o?
Oh, yeah.
She has,
Lupita Nyong'o.
He has the same goals as Nakia of getting Wakanda out there into the wider world. He just has the wrong way of going about it. So I thought that just that trio of ideas was superb because then T'Challa then takes over Nakia's idea. He takes it in and goes like, oh, I was wrong. Wakanda should be out there, but we should be doing it your way, which is good, which is, respectable and honourable, rather than trying to get revenge, essentially.
Yeah.
I think my main beef is that I think they made Michael B. Jordan too likeable. And then they thought, wait. He actually kills people as well. It just seemed really last minute. Like, I would have liked it if he was much more levels of grey. Or he wasn't like this crazy psychopath who would, hold people up by the neck and burn it all kind of thing.
Oh, no, I love the awful churning feelings you get when you become sympathetic to the villain, knowing that you really shouldn't, because he's like, but you can understand where he's come from. He's just going the wrong way about it. I love that. Really like, oh no, like feeling inside.
But by the way, did either of you watch Aquaman?
No.
I did, yeah.
Oh, you did? All right,
yeah, basically a space battle underwater.
Yeah. Also, really a lot of similarities with Black Panther. Like, fight between siblings for the future of their kingdom.
They had that in Thor too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Black Panther and Thor Ragnarok are very, very similar movies when you break it down.
I love Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah, I think that seems to be the thing now, to go really almost Shakespearean with the thing.
Yeah.
And have these big, like, intrafamilial, like, conflicts.
Well, I think the origin story is so being done. They've got to find different genres to, because superhero isn't really. I mean, superhero is a genre of like I said, origin story, somebody extraordinary, and but that's just so tired. So yeah, it makes sense that they're just sort of having to find different avenues.
Yeah, and Spider-Verse just sort of skips over it several times, but he just does it really quickly, which is so nice.
Cool. Well, let's we've sort of got a few more minutes. So, what is there anything on here that we haven't discussed so far that we want to touch on?
I think original score, Isle of Dogs was my pick. I love that score. It was so propulsive and so eerie in a way. Like the whole movie is very, very downbeat, and it's very, very dark and oppressive, and I think so much of that comes from the score. I just remember feeling uncomfortable in that movie. With all the percussion and the, like, was it a cowbell? Something like ding, 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 ding. Yeah.
I really enjoyed that movie just because I love animation, especially animation that's done differently, without being too gimmicky. I don't really remember the score, but I remember the feelings that I got from it. Yeah.
I think I'd agree, because I love that film, but I don't have as strong a memory. I remember the drums at the start. Yeah. Whereas I remember the from Black Panther. There was such a memorable motif for me. I mean, Black Panther got costume design, which is very cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. I was so happy.
Yeah.
Because they just did amazing work.
And hasn't she, I can't remember the name of the costume designer, but she's been nominated like stupid amounts of times.
Really?
And she's African American, she's never won, and it's like she was like finally, and she's done some incredible work.
Well, yeah, the costumes were incredible because I read an article ages ago, because after I watch films I obsessively then look at every aspect about it straight immediately afterwards. She took so many different elements of different areas of Africa and incorporated it into each of the different tribes that were represented, and into the warrior outfits of the all-female guard. Like, that was based on a real all-female army, legion kind of thing that was in Africa. There's photographs of it, and when you look at them and then you look at theirs, like, it's not the same, but you can definitely see the same shapes and the same protections, and it's in like Wonder Woman, where finally there's armor that is actually armor. Yeah,
and functional as opposed to just showing off butts.
Yeah, it was very
until we
attractive.
get to Justice League.
It's like, and that it was colourful, because Africa as a nation is incredibly colourful. And it was just wonderful to see that colour brought out and celebrated in the city and in the costumes and just in every aspect, rather than just being like, Africa is dusty in some areas, and so let's make everything dusty. It's just like, no, it's technological and advanced and beautiful and cultural. And it's just like, let's emphasize that, which I thought was really cool. And the fact that she based it on real imagery and real costumes of Indigenous people is just stunning. As a half Asian, half Chinese person, having that connection to your roots is so important, and it is so meaningful. And so I got really teary in the audience on behalf of African people, going like, oh my god, like, this is so amazing, it's so beautiful, I know the significance of this, because in some ways that hasn't really been done for the Chinese people in Hollywood.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Cinema in Context. If you enjoyed our podcast, then please share it with your film-loving friends. You can listen to Cinema in Context through SoundCloud or through Apple Podcasts. You can follow us on Facebook or subscribe to us on Twitter and YouTube, which are great places to let us know what you think of this episode or give us suggestions for future films to discuss and compare. Look out for our next episode in a month's time, and until then, ka kite anō.